Republican Senator Mike Lee is taking a stand against one of President Trump's nominees to a key federal agency. The controversy has pretty much flown under the radar in the middle of the government shutdown, but for the right and the left, there are some big issues at stake here, from traditional marriage to workplace discrimination. Correspondent David Spunt is here to tell us why Senator Lee is blocking his own president, his own party's nominee.
Yeah, Shannon, it's quite a story. As you know, the EEOC is there to protect people's civil rights in the workplace. And Chai Feldblum, she's not new to the agency. She's been a commissioner since 2010, receiving support from both Democrats and Republicans. In fact, President Trump renominated her to her post just a year ago. Tonight, she's defending her name, as Senator Lee says he'll really do whatever he can do to make sure that she is out of a job.
I object to her confirmation.
Utah Senator Mike Lee is making it clear he wants EEOC Commissioner Chai Feldblum out over concerns about her stance on religious liberty, and he's prepared for a fight.
The federal government should never, Mr. President, be used as a tool to stamp out religious liberty. That principle is so central to our nation's founding and to human happiness itself. It's so important that we've got to stand behind it. Ms. Feldblum, however, wants to deny exactly that.
Feldblum is the first and only openly gay EEOC commissioner who was quoted in a 2006 article as saying she had a difficult time finding any case in which religious liberty should win over sexual liberty. Feldblum claims she was misquoted and put out this written statement over Lee's position. Senator Lee and others may feel they have kept a rabid opponent to religious liberty off the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. They are wrong. It is true that they have ensured that someone who cares deeply about both religious liberty and LGBT rights won't be protecting those interests from the perch of the EEOC. But I have fought for the civil rights of LGBT people, religious people, and others for years. I won't be stopping now. Feldblum went on to tell Fox News in an email, Senator Lee refused to meet with me when I asked to do so. Perhaps that is why he does not know what I actually believe. In 2009, Feldblum defended religious liberty.
I also have a deep respect for and understanding of religious practice and a deep-seated tolerance for religious difference.
Washington Democrat Senator Patty Murray says Feldblum must be confirmed for the sake of millions of employees across the country.
Because of the objection of a single Republican senator, it is possible now that the EEOC will be unable to conduct some of its most critical work.
But Lee says he'll continue to fight to protect religious liberty, a concept he believes the EEOC should welcome.
Who is she to decide whether or not someone should be permitted to persist in their own religious beliefs simply because those beliefs happen to conflict with a particular political worldview?
And speaking of religious beliefs, in an email tonight, Feldblum told me that her late father was a proud rabbi. Shannon, she said he would be very upset to see exactly the way she's being portrayed right now in the media, especially by Senator Lee with this whole situation going on.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on it because I guess her commission essentially expires New Year's Eve if the Senate doesn't do something, and they're not here. So
they're not here, and there's a lot of questions about how the EEOC is going to operate for those millions of people around the country if she's not in.
All right, David, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, joining us now, Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, to talk about this. Tony, welcome.
Thanks, Shannon. Good to be with you.
All right, I want to play a little bit more of Senator Lee's critique and then some response from Ms. Feldblum. So here is the senator.
Ms. Feldblum has written that she sees a conflict between religious belief and LGBT liberty as, quote, a zero-sum game, where, quote, a gain for one side necessarily entails a corresponding loss for the other side, close quote. I see no reason why that should be the case, and I think that's fundamentally incompatible with our nation's long tradition of pluralism and religious freedom.
Okay, so Tony, here is her response in part. She says it's an out-of-context quote that suggests, I believe there is a zero-sum game between religious liberty and LGBT rights, and that LGBT rights must always prevail no matter what. That is not my position and never has been. I care deeply about preserving religious pluralism in our country, even if that means protecting religious organizations whose views I disagree with. That is the point of pluralism. Okay, what is getting lost in translation here?
Well, I think we got to put it in context first. And I know Chai Feldblum. She actually spoke at the Family Research Council. I invited her one time to come and speak on a panel, and she made comments reflecting this coming collision between religious freedom and sexual liberty. And she then suggested that she saw that religious liberty would lose. But she is also the architect of the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which Congress has repeatedly refused to pass. Now, this is literally sacrificing our vibrant First Amendment on the altar of sexual libertinism. And she was unable to get that through Congress. So Barack Obama appointed her to the EEOC. Couldn't actually get her through the Senate when Harry Reid was the majority leader, so he did a recess appointment. She was subsequently, after Harry Reid changed the rules where only a majority were needed for presidential nominees. So she's been controversial even to her own party. She has taken positions that are 180 degrees from the Trump administration when it comes to religious freedom. And so it is, I applaud Senator Mike Lee. I've spoken with him a number of times about this particular case and applaud him for taking this stand in defense of religious liberty. She reflects an era of the past, the Barack Obama era of hostility toward religious freedom. We don't need her on the EEOC leading that commission forward.
But Tony, you know how this works, obviously. I mean, the president has the opportunity to appoint members, the majority of members, 3-2. So you have 5 members of the EEOC that represent his majority party. But he goes to the Democrats for their nominations and their suggestions on the other 2 members. She's already a current sitting member of the commission. So he's basically following up with what the Democrats want, which is to keep her there. Now, there is this issue, as we talked about with David, that her commission expires December 31st. If the Senate doesn't take action, clearly it doesn't appear that there's any way they're going to. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, could force a vote. Here is what a statement from GLAAD's vice president. Here's what they say. Americans need a fully functional EEOC to combat discrimination and sexual harassment in the workplace, and Mike Lee's anti-LGBTQ views should not stand in the way of those seeking justice under the law. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell should abide by set precedent and immediately hold a full Senate vote on the EEOC nominees where fair-minded voices will prevail. Do you think McConnell's going to do that?
No, I don't. I don't think he should. First off, you have to look at what the advantage she has as a returning member of the commission. I serve on the federal commission, and I know those existing members kind of influence the new members. But you have to consider the EEOC is actually lined up in federal court against the Trump administration's own Department of Justice on the redefinition of terms such as sexual discrimination and what sex means, where this is furthering the lawlessness of the Obama administration, where they unilaterally changed the terms of the 1964 anti-discrimination law, civil rights law, and the 1974 Title VII as it pertains to employment. They have just unilaterally redefined those terms. She's doing that by bureaucratic fiat. So I think Mitch McConnell would be wrong to move forward with this. I think Mike Lee is taking the right position. I don't think the president really is pushing this. I think you're right. It was giving the Democrats, somebody in the White House said, let's just give them what they want. Chuck Schumer wanted her. I think she needs to be off the commission.
Well, having practiced labor and employment law in the past, I know exactly how much power the EEOC wields. And, you know, you have to ask questions about Congress about how much power has been delegated to these federal agencies because they don't answer to the people. They're unelected, and they do have quite a bit of power. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll track it, and we'll have Senator Lee here in the new year to come talk to us about it as well. Tony, thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Shannon.